You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. What? I always like that as a way of saying hello, but then I think either the person you're talking to, or like in this case when I can't hear you because selfishly you don't all do your own podcast responding to this one. I mean, come on everyone. But what should happen is someone says, what, and then in response it should be this, or that, or even this what. Or if you're doing electrical engineering, then it might, I suppose, be a really important question. You know, you could be saying, what? And the response could be, 12,000 watts, now plug it in and let's play loud music on my electric dustbin. Or something like that. So, what, Radio Nonsense listeners? And yes, here is another one of the official Comedy Club for Kids podcasts, suitable for all ages from 2. Yes! And everything in between. What have you been up to this week? I've been... Oh, hang on a minute. Have I been doing this week? What day is it today? Sunday? But it was Sunday yesterday, and I'm pretty sure it was Sunday the day before that. Am I stuck in a month of Sundays? Oh no, I didn't realise it was that time of year. That means all the things that will never happen in a month of Sundays are going to start occurring any minute now. Yep. There's the flying pigs. No, and there's the cows coming home, and I've only just tidied up. And yeah, the frogs have grown hair. Oh, but that one has a very splendid moustache. Yeah, no, you're welcome. And the chickens have grown teeth. I'd better put some toffees out for them. Oh, let me check the calendar. Yes, it says it's August the 36th, which is a Sunday, obviously. Oh, I hate it when this happens. I'll just have to try to remember what I did last time to fix this. I definitely did something, because it only went on for about 16, 17 Sundays last time. Maybe I just tried to sleep through it. Oh, that might be tricky with all that noise. Well, I'll have a think, but while I do, firstly, thank you to K-Doc who sent in a farting turkey, which... now has teeth too. Well, that is terrifying. Thank you, K-Doc. And also to Moo W for the lovely review on Apple Podcasts, saying it brings happy tears to their eyes, which I think are the best tears. Though, if you don't want to cry at all while listening, may I suggest wearing glasses as it blocks out the fumes that come from this podcast. Oh, no, wait, hang on. That might be onions. Or maybe that's farting turkeys. It's very hard to say, but my eyes are definitely watering now. Oh, actually, no, that's because the frogs are using hairspray. Stop it! If you like this show, you too can write a review. Oh, I'm a poet, but don't know it. You can write a review on any of the podcast sites like Apple Podcasts or Audible or Big Henry's PopJamboree. I don't think that one exists, but hey, you may as well try. And if you'd like to send in a question to be answered on this show, a joke you've made up that you'd like me to read out, or, well, you just want to send in anything else at all, do ask your custard need whinge boxes, I'm sorry, grown-ups, to help you email me at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. Even more importantly, though, if I ever escape this month of Tuesdays, Sundays, Wednesdays, I don't even remember what day it is anymore. Well, then we're going to do a Radio Nonsense Live at the South Bank Centre in London at 2:30pm on Wednesday, October the 26th. Your grown-ups can grab tickets at southbankcentre.co.uk or in the ticket link at the podcast blurb for this episode. And I've been told loads of you are already coming, which is very exciting, but it does mean if you still would like to come, you do have to grab tickets very, very quickly. I'm pretty certain Linda said she would be there. I'm sure she did. Linda, will you be at Radio Nonsense Live, Linda? No, that's just the farting turkey. Oh well, where is Linda? Who is Linda? Anyway, we'll see. You can also check out our other Comedy Club for Kids shows, including some very special Christmas ones that are going to be happening in December around the UK at comedyclub4kids.co.uk, and you can grab our t-shirts and book at comedyclubforkids.store. Ah, no, now the chickens are biting through the internet wires, the cows are demanding to watch TV, and the frogs just keep combing their lovely hair, which is quite nice. Oh, and yet the moon's gone blue now, and it's the daytime. Right, look, I'm going to work this out. While I do, you make sure that you listen to this most importantest bit.
What's the matter?
Today on the podcast, I am joined by none other than Phil O'Shea, also known as Philly Ocean. Phil O'Shea, who is 76% made of hay, and of course, as all our Kinyarwandon-speaking listeners know him, Reka Gukadganda Gira Karoti Yanjaye. But of course, Phil, what you're most famous for is your lifelong record of avoiding eye contact with any marsupials, for your best-selling 4,000-page debut novel telling the story of a rock that doesn't do anything, titled Well, It's a Rock, Isn't It? And of course, your pioneering new style of mindfulness where you go about doing normal activities but while not actually paying attention to any of them and therefore feeling calm. Phil, it's lovely to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. It's nice and sunny today, which is always good.
Yeah.
As they say, yeah.
If you've got sun there, where I am is immensely grey. It's a bit like being in a black and white film. And
oh dear.
Yeah, I'm quite jealous.
I can imagine that though. Yeah. Do you feel, are people speaking in a sort of more old-fashioned voice as well with the black and white vibe that you've got going on, like a clipped sort of?
Yes, very clipped tones, and then what's really weird is every now and then they move their lips, nothing comes out, and there's just a sort of subtitle below them of words, and I have to be quite quick to get that because you don't normally look at their knees for conversations. It's tricky.
I mean, I don't know how 3D you're at finding things where you are. It's quite a 3D sort of experience. Like if I'm not anywhere near an aquarium, but if I was to look at one, it's almost like the fish are right there in front of you.
Oh my goodness. And you don't have to wear special glasses or anything? Or
no glasses, it's just right there. I mean, my hands, I hope the listeners at home can imagine, I'm putting my hand in front of my face and it's almost as if it's there.
Wow.
Right there in front of me.
Wow, that's got to be quite disconcerting, hasn't it? I mean, I'd find that a bit disorientating, possibly get a bit dizzy at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just have a lie down after this. This is the main thing I've got to do today, so.
Oh, that's good. That's good. When you lying down, I suppose that'll be on a... Cause I'm sort of worried about how you're going to lie down if the bed's actually there without sort of bumping into it or without hurting yourself on it.
Yeah, you sort of have to train yourself to remember, well, it's not really there. It's just a illusion, isn't it?
Yes.
That's all part of my mindfulness as well.
Right. Well, that's what I thought, because you're so good at this. I mean, and it's interesting here you saying that is throwing you off a bit that things are 3D, because I thought, based on what I've read from your readings, which obviously I didn't pay attention to while I read them, because that's almost the first thing you recommend in the book, is don't pay attention to any of this. But the bit I do remember is that you basically said, like you didn't even really pay attention to doing it, don't pay attention to anything. That's your whole sort of ethos, isn't it?
Well, I don't even remember writing the book. That's the weird thing about it.
Of course.
And the thing is that when you read it, it basically says it's all in your mind anyway, so you don't need to read it. You sort of know it already. So in a lot of ways, it's the best kind of book to have, I think.
It is, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? It's because it's been a best-selling book, but obviously you tell no one to read it.
No, and they don't need to, really.
Well, that's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
But you don't remember writing the book. So are you even aware that you've kind of come up with this new style, or do you have to keep being reminded? And then I suppose you don't pay attention to the people that remind you.
No, I think you really hit on something when you said about not paying attention. I think it is a secret to life sometimes if you just don't focus on what's happening. Just focus on what is in front of you, like your hand, for example. I hope the listeners at home can imagine I'm putting my hand in front of my face again. If you just imagine that, and you can do that yourself, or just imagine doing it and don't do it, it's the same result, really. That's why I say.
Wow. That's, I mean, we've started quite big here, and I do hope again, we've started quite big, because I didn't want to ask you, because obviously this is your career. You're a guest on the podcast. I don't want to jump in and immediately go, Phil, give us your guide to life, give us all your tips, But the listeners right there, they've got to imagine putting their hand in front of their face, and that's going to be hard for some of them. Some of them probably never put their hands in front of their face before in their lives.
Yeah, well, I would invite you to try it now. and just see what it looks like, because it's quite amazing. People talk about knowing a route as well as the back of their hand. I would say I know the front of my hand about the same as I know the back.
Wow.
So I would just look at the back and then imagine what the front is like, or vice versa.
That's amazing. Can I give it a go? Phil, do you mind if, I don't want to interrupt our chat, but can I give it a go? Because I don't think I've ever put my hand in front of my face before. I'm going to just...
Yeah, give it a go.
Oh my goodness! That's weird!
It's quite good.
There's a whole hand there. I had no idea.
It's almost like it's right in front of you. That's what's sort of trippy about it.
Yes, it's fascinating, actually. And there's like fingers there and a thumb. And I mean, I don't think I'd really realised before. It's nice when you sort of pause to really take these things in.
Yeah. You can read people's fortunes as well by looking at their hands. I'm just looking at mine now, and I'm going to be looking at that for a while now. That's what I'm predicting.
Right. Yep.
And at home, you can imagine I'm still looking at it, and that sort of pays off what I said about my prediction.
Yes.
And yes.
I mean, that was very accurate. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Looking at you, still looking at your hand after you said you predict you. I mean, and that's phenomenal. And I don't think many people have got skills like that. It's really remarkable, actually. It's wonderful watching it in action. I'm sorry to listeners that you can't see this happening, but let me tell you, Phil's looked at his hand. He's still looking, really.
I'm still looking, and there's more there than I even imagined first time round. So
yes. Are people normally happy when you predict their fortune? I mean, I don't know I suppose people predict their own fortunes. You don't look at other people's hands, do you?
Yeah, no, I tend to just look at my own hand and imagine what I'm going to do next, which is more hand looking. So I think it's sort of, I've figured out the sort of things I'm likely to do through experience, through watching the sort of things I do. And then I guess the sort of things I'm going to do in the future. But I'd advise you at home to do the same thing. If you're not sure what you're going to do next, just think about what you did yesterday, and then it's probably similar.
That's amazing. I mean, I've got to just, I'm going to be boring here. I'm going to be a boring grown-uppy type, fart face grown up. But are there things that the listeners have to be wary of? Because I'd worry, like, say if you're going to look at your hand, and then suddenly there's a glove on it, that's going to be quite a shock. Or what if you're holding a spoon, you didn't realise it? Do you have to be careful?
Yes. I mean, hands have a lot of power, I would say. So you've got to watch out. And if you are wearing the gloves, I would just ask who put those gloves on. If it was you that put them on, you're probably all right. Although those yellow ones, the washing up gloves are always fun. They tend to be yellow, don't they?
Yes.
Don't quote me on that, but more often than not, they're yellow. And I've always wondered why that would be.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I'm not sure, and I've not looked into it. I wonder if it's so that you don't mistake them for like a plate. Like, because often you don't often get, I mean, maybe people do get yellow plates. I don't think I've got any yellow plates.
Don't think I've seen one.
Everything here is black and white. So then therefore the yellow gloves really stick out. So you're like, then
the weird thing as well, if you had a fried egg on a yellow plate, and then the yolk was exactly the same color, it might look like your egg just had a hole in the middle of it, like a sort of donut egg combo. And that's not what you want to be thinking about when you're just trying to have a nice fried egg.
Yeah, and then you'd make another fried egg because you think this one might not have a hole in it, and then of course you'd lose the yolk again. I mean, you'd end up with about 15 eggs. And it's a terrible situation.
one wants that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the scrambled eggs, of course, would entirely disappear. Yeah.
It's a good system, but if you want to camouflage yolks, I'd go with the yellow plate.
That's true. Whole sweet corns, whole corn on the cobs could go. So I suppose if there's someone that doesn't like sweet corn, you would like them to eat sweet corn, you could put it on a yellow plate and they wouldn't know it was even there to eat it.
It would feel like you were eating nothing.
Yeah. But I think I mean, I would assume that's why a lot of people don't have. I'm just guessing here. There's listeners, you can write in if you've got yellow plates, but generally I assume no one in the world has any, and therefore they made gloves yellow so that when you wash plates, you know that your hands aren't plates, and therefore you won't wash them, and they can remain disgusting.
Yeah, that's a good system. I don't think many people enjoy it. Well, I say that. Doing the washing up when you're in the right mood, it can be all right. but it tends to not be when there's a big pile of dishes that you want to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's not like when there's like one fork or something. That's quite fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. But I mean, I guess for you, if you're not paying attention to any of it anyway, you sort of do the washing up without realizing you've done it.
No, I just came in from the kitchen just now, and it's all been done.
Amazing.
There's no one else here, so I can only guess it's me doing it.
That's fantastic. It sounds really. I mean, it just sounds like a nice way to be, and and I hope I won't forget. I won't mind. I should say, if we get to the end of this podcast and you haven't realised you've done it, I will understand.
Yeah,
and that may be the best. Maybe the best thing to do, I suppose, depending on how it goes. Yeah, and I was going to ask how you are, but I'm guessing you're sort of quite relaxed.
I'm quite relaxed. Yeah, the sun definitely did cheer me up. Nice bit of sunshine. It does make you think, if you were wearing those marigolds and gloves, I think they tend to call the yellow gloves marigolds. If you're holding them up in front of the sun, it might look like your hand had just gone.
Oh, goodness. That's actually quite terrifying.
Yeah, so maybe won't do that, but just know that the sun's there.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's my goodness. I wonder how many people have had that terrifying moment. They're washing the dishes. And then they put their hand up at the sun, and then it's like, my hand's gone. Now how am I going to wash up the dishes?
Yeah,
I've got no hand.
And then they just move their hand back closer to the dishes, and then it's right there.
Yeah, but that's too much. I mean, this is again, but just back to your mindfulness. Life can be so stressful with these things like that catch you out that you're not expecting, and maybe it's just best to not be paying attention to any of it in the first place. I feel like we've all learned something already. We haven't even got to the questions that I need to ask you, Phil. I feel like this has already been a really useful exercise in mindfulness. Who knows? Some of our listeners may already be asleep, but feeling so relaxed.
I wouldn't blame them.
They may have passed out with sheer just feelings of calmness. Possibly even before we started the interview, they might have gone to sleep. I'm not sure, but there are questions that I do have to ask you. There's one very important question, but before we get there, the admin questions. The first one is that, of course, this is an audio podcast, which you may or may not be aware of, and that's obviously why the listeners couldn't see you looking at your hand. And what it means is that they listen to this sometimes, mostly with their ears, but they could also listen with their knees, their bums. We don't discriminate, however they choose. And I just wondered that, because it's audio, if you had a favourite noise that you could either tell us about or preferably make for us.
Well, so I've got a couple. I quite like, but I slightly prefer.
Wow, I couldn't really hear them.
Could you not really pick them up?
No.
I'll try and do them a bit louder. Okay, so it's quite good. And then.
Wow. But they're very quiet. I mean, they're very impressive, very quiet sounds. What would you say those are? I wouldn't want to guess.
I think they're both. I've heard them referred to as whistling.
Whistling, yes, but they're two different types of whistle. One almost more sort of like, again, very calming, I'd say, but one almost a bit creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if they have different uses.
I don't know. They've both got their own things that recommend them, because is good, but then just generally feels a bit happier.
Yes. Yeah, so I suppose depends on how. Do people whistle when they're miserable? It's not something, because when people are happy, they tend. You think of people walking along whistling, going, "I'm really happy," but then you don't think of people. I'm having a terrible day.
Yeah, it's something that you could do. I could see why it could work, but it tends to not happen. I think there's something about actually pursing your lips that requires quite a lot. It's close to a smile, and it requires a bit of focus that you might not have when you're feeling really down, I would say.
Yes.
So when you're going to go in for the frowny kind of face, what's the natural noise that you're going to go? Whistling doesn't seem as I'm at home. If you imagine I'm sort of doing a frown as we speak, and it's sort of just naturally coming. I'll try and whistle from that. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah, it's quite. I wonder if you are sad and you whistle, it just cheers you up naturally because it's too hard, it's too hard not to be happy when you're whistling.
Yeah, hope so.
I mean, it's quite a big question, really, and we've got the bigger questions obviously to come. But trains whistle, don't they? Sometimes. Do you think they're always? Does that mean they're always happy? Old kettles, not probably listeners won't really have a kettle that whistles now, but they used to whistle and.
And referees, of course, they're probably happy about something. They've got a lot of
famously happy people, aren't they? Referees.
Happy as a referee, that's the expression.
It is. Yeah, they're always happy. They're always like, "Oh, you've messed up again, ha ha!" That's what they say, isn't it? Things like that, and yeah.
Police get them, I guess, or that's more of an old thing. Do they still use them? I don't know. The old-fashioned in your black and white film world, you'd see a lot of police with whistles.
Absolutely loads here, loads of police with whistles. But again, when they blow on them, there's just a little it just says at the bottom of their legs like "wee." It doesn't actually whistle. It's very weird. Very confusing. And a lifeguard. Well, there's people at swimming pools. It's often lifeguards, isn't it? Sometimes they have whistles, or in but if you go row a boat on a lake, there's always someone with a whistle just to tell you when to bring the boat back.
Yeah, it's a nice noise. I think we should expand it out, and I think we should expand whistle use to other professions as well. Just at the checkout in a supermarket, having a whistle could be good.
That'd be lovely,
speed things up. If you're not doing the self-service and you're just in a long queue, just get someone whistling to move things along. Could be good.
I think that's a really
if you've got 6 items in a 5 items or less queue, you just get the whistle and give you a red card.
Yes.
And
I like the idea. I mean, I very much like the idea of whistling in sort of supermarket use, but I like the idea generally of card-based punishments for people that can't use the queue properly, and then you'd be like, where you're like, if you come back to the supermarket and mess up again, you're out forever, or red card, you can never ever come here again and buy bread.
Yeah,
it's a harsh system, but I feel it would be useful. Wow. Well, thanks for that. I mean, it's great noise. Thank you for that, and really appreciate that. And of course, the other question I have to ask you for this show, this is very important, is that this is a family-friendly show. It's suitable for all ages you can possibly imagine. Can you imagine an age?
32.
Yeah, absolutely suitable for 32. That is correct. Any age you can imagine, except 100. Long story, but every other age, absolutely suitable. And so I just need to check if there are any rude words you won't be saying on this episode, so we can make sure it's safe.
I won't be saying onion.
Oh, yeah, no, please don't say onion. That is, wow. Yeah, that's awful. We would get a lot of complaints.
I hate to have to bring it up, but I won't say it.
No, please don't say onion. I mean, I think it brings people to tears, literally. So it is a terrible word. And I appreciate you not saying. If you could also. Well, I'm not sure. I think onions is fine. I think you're okay to say onions, and I think you're allowed to know your onions on the show.
Yes.
But yeah.
But one single onion.
No.
Will not pass my lips.
No, please don't.
I'd have to cut it up first.
Yes.
And then.
Yeah, and probably cook it. I mean, it's very hard to eat a raw onion.
Just a whole raw onion in one.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be particularly happy about it either. I think not only would it upset listeners, I think it would upset you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a really horrible experience. I wouldn't enjoy watching it, I have to say.
It just looks so much like an apple that there's something in me that wants to just take a bite out of one. You feel, how bad could it be? And then another part of you thinks, might not be great.
Be awful. If you haven't peeled, if you still got that papery bit on the outside, it's like the world's worst present, because it just have you. You unwrap it and it's no, all stingy in the eyes. Yeah, it's
I do find that it's tricky when you're peeling an onion to know when to stop, because there's always more that you could keep peeling off. I don't know if there's a really clear answer on that.
No, I think it's potentially you can peel forever. It just, I think you just have to get to really small levels of. It's so tiny that you need sort of scientific instruments to peel the last layers. Yeah.
Yeah, once you start breaking it down into subatomic particles, then you probably peel too far.
Yes, and then you suddenly you're peeling away, parts of reality and end up creating a sort of wormhole through which there's more onions, intergalactic ones. I mean, I've heard it can get quite dangerous. And
yeah, so I'd say just make sure there's someone to supervise you if you're ever peeling an onion.
Yes,
that's the main message.
Do you peel onions without realizing it? Then are you regularly sort of do you sort of walk away and go, oh, well, there's 12 onions peeled and I had no idea?
Yeah, I do, but they do actually make my eyes water a bit, and it's hard not to notice that.
Sure.
That brings you back.
Yes, and I think one of the reasons again why onion, saying the word onion at least on this show, it's awful because you can't even not think about it.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
Yeah. Well, thank you for not saying onion. I also won't say onion, and we know this episode is now safe. Now listen, the main reason I've asked you on this show, obviously, I mean it's a delight to have you anyway. But the main reason is we've had this question in from somebody whose name is a Smasher Bash, and then it says US or it might be us. I don't know if there's two of them, or they're in the US, and I assume by US they mean United States, but they could be underwater snails. I don't know. Umbrella, sick. No, there's a lot to guess. I don't know if a bash, if that's just the first name, or a series of names.
Yeah.
Or if the A is like Aaron Smash, Adam Bash, and and us. Maybe that's why it says us afterwards. There's a lot of questions I have about who it is that sent this in, and I don't have those answers. But hopefully you've got the answers to their questions. Which there's two questions here. Would you like them one at a time or both all at once?
Let's do one at a time.
Okay. Well, the first one, and this is a big question, right? It's a big question.
Okay.
The A Smasher Bash from us says, "Do rhinos fart on lions?"
It's a good question. You see them kicking about in the same part of the world, so I would assume that there's going to be rhinos if they do fart, which it's hard to imagine an animal not farting. If they do, I'm sure they fart near lions. But the most interesting part of that question to me is the word on, which seems to imply there's a situation where this rhino is on the back of the lion, maybe riding it around like a horse.
Wow.
Now, I would definitely like the listeners at home to imagine that, if you can. Just imagine this rhino riding around on the back of a lion. And then at that point, if a fart happens, that's going to be the least of anyone's worries. But I think it would happen then, and it would be on the lion.
I mean, that's a fascinating thing to. I mean, that's a fascinating thing to imagine. I wonder if there's also a chance, because lions, particularly sort of male lions with their big old manes, they tend to just be asleep a lot, don't they? There's almost. Yeah. I wonder if rhinos have taken advantage of that and just sat on a lion. Got quite comfy.
That's a good point. Maybe just while it's having its sleep. Yeah, you've got to wonder what's going on in this rhino's mind, whether if it really uses that's what it wants to do. I guess I was imagining the riding situation because I thought it might be a side effect of just a fun. I can relate to wanting to ride around on a lion,
of course.
But. Yeah, I think your listener raises a very good question, and I'm going to conduct some more research into it.
Yeah, I mean, is there because there's definitely a confidence that I'd have thought, because rhinos are pretty big, and I don't know, and maybe your research that you will conduct will explain this. I don't know, were a rhino to fight a lion, and I'm sure it doesn't happen. I'm sure they will love each other very much. But were a rhino to fight a lion, I'd have thought a rhino would have a pretty good chance. In that it's got big, thick skin, huge like horn on its nose, pretty tough. So I'd have thought that whereas like a weasel would be a bit terrified to fart on a lion because you get or a duck-billed platypus or something that But I'd have thought a rhino could quite easily fart on a lion, and then if the lion was like, "Did you fart on me?" the rhino could be like, "What are you going to do about it?" Yeah,
it's the ultimate power move, isn't it? And it happens in a lot of situations where someone will do that. Just as a sort of power move. I think the horn gives these rhinos a lot of power in their negotiations. And lions are pretty tiny as far as I can see. I don't know if you've ever for Pancake Day, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, but you'll get that tin of golden syrup, won't you? And there's often a lion on the front, which I assume means there's a lion inside. And if they're anything, they're the right size to fit in one of them tins. They're pretty tiny.
Yes.
Whereas I've never seen a rhino on the outside of any tin of anything. So presumably because they can't fit in.
Gosh, that's a very good point.
So I mean, that's one option. Is you could get the rhino could sit on the tinned lion. The lion wouldn't even know what's happening before you know it.
Wow.
Fart.
You raise a good point, because I remember seeing a lion at the zoo, and I thought it was far away because I could have sort of fit it between my fingers, or or like I could cover it up with my thumb. But actually, I think maybe it was right by me and really small.
I think they're quite small. I think they're smaller than than Hollywood would have you believe, anyway.
Yeah, so that because there's a lion that roars at the beginning of some films, and so do you think they've got like a magnifying glass in front of it?
Well, it's on the big screen, isn't it? If you watch him at home on your normal TV, he's tiny.
Yes.
He only looks imposing when you're out in the actual cinema. So there's obviously they're scaling him up, definitely.
Wow, I can't believe this terrible lion illusion we've all been made to believe, and they're actually very small. And then, of course, you come into, if they are that small, as you say, rhinos could be farting on them all the time without even realising it.
Yeah, maybe it's just an accident. Because I mean, there must be rhinos in films, but not as they haven't cornered the market as much as that MGM line at the start of the films there.
No, I can't think of any big rhino-based films.
No.
There's no sort of like Rhino in New York or Rhino versus Predator, or there's none of that. You never get those sort of.
No. They seem. I like them. I like their style, but I don't think they've ever had a franchise that's like put them at the center of it, which would be nice.
Yeah, long overdue. It's very sad, actually. Now that you've said it, it's very sad, and I wonder what it would be that stopped them doing that. Is it the sort of filming them because there's always the big horn on their nose? It can be quite tricky to do certain shots because all you see is the big horn on their nose. Is that? I mean, that seems like a bit of a silly worry. But
yeah, I don't know. Like, so you've got the lion. He's right there at the start of so many movies that aren't lion based. I mean, the only lion you got, there's a lot. There's Lion Witch in the Wardrobe. There's the Wizard of Oz. You got a lion in there. The Lion King.
Yeah.
He's in the title. He's not just in the movie. I mean, and there's that little lamp before Pixar that comes and jumps about.
Yes.
But there's no little rhino jumping around at the start of any film I can think of, maybe that would be the logical next step.
Maybe, and maybe this is why they're farting on. Maybe the farting on lions is out of jealousy. Maybe they want the Hollywood career, and the only thing they can do is quite petty, sort of farting on them as a kind of, well, if I can't have these films, I'll fart on you. But if anything, the lions are better connected. If they're being farted on all the time, they're gonna make sure the rhinos don't get into Hollywood.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Well, Phil, that is a lot to think about there, and I hope you do conduct research. Although I dare say, after we spoke about this, you won't remember that you've done it, and therefore,
no,
or maybe
I probably
the research,
won't remember it.
Yeah, unless you do the research without thinking about it as well, I suppose, which would be very helpful. Well, listen, the second question, there is a second question, and I should say, I don't know if this is directed at me, but I would like you to answer it anyway. But the Smash and Bash has asked, and what do you have against yaks? Now, I think this is because I have, on a previous podcast, said some things about yaks, and I've said those because yaks are quite big and smelly and hairy. But I'm not really against yaks. I wonder, do you have anything against yaks, Phil?
I've got nothing against yaks. I just had one incident. Well, I used to work as a hairdresser, and it was just it was the end of my shift, and this yak came in, and I thought, there's all this hair. This is gonna take me like 3 hours minimum to get, and I was frustrated in that moment. But nothing against yaks in general, but that one time I just felt like if a rhino had come in at that moment, I'd have been delighted, because there's barely any hair on them.
Of course.
But the yak, yeah, it's the hair thing, I think.
I don't want to generalize, but that is kind of typical yak behavior, that they'd wait till the very last minute, knowing that it will take you a whole day just to sort of give them a front, back and sides, and they will still wait until it's nearly closing time. In the same way that they often sit right in the middle of like a 3-seater on the bus so that you can't sit next to your friend because there's a yak in between you. They always do that. And there's a lot of that sort of behavior, standing on the wrong side of escalators.
Yeah. And the thing, I was trying to clean up all the hair that because you know what it's like in the barbers when you've done that, there's a lot of hair on the floor, and it was with this yak, there was a lot, and it knocked some of the hair gel that was on the side. This yak knocked it over. I think it did it on purpose, and I got all tangled up in the gel and the hair, and then I was walking out of there looking like Chewbacca or a Bigfoot or something. And there was all these pictures of me in the papers. We found Bigfoot. He's living in London and all. And I just didn't have the heart to explain that I'd been. It was a yak attack essentially that had happened to me. So, as I say, it's just that one incident, but it was quite a strong memory I have of it.
Yes, and it's still affecting you to this day, isn't it? You still got people sort of that camp outside waiting for a glimpse of this yeti.
Yeah, always trying to get photos of me, and I've got rid of most of the hair now, so I don't know what I think they're just doing out of habit at this point. But
I just think, well, that's very insensitive of the yak. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and I'm glad that you're sort of through the worst of it now. But it is that yaks do tend to exhibit that kind of behaviour. You rarely see them holding a door open for someone. I've certainly never seen a yak do that. I've never seen a yak help anyone across the road. I've never seen the yak give anyone sweets for free. I've never seen him doing nice things.
I would say though, if you wanted an animal to do an impression of a motorbike, I would choose a yak over a rhino, because you've got the two horns you could hold on to, really. It's like the handlebars. So basically, if there's any sort of bike impression film going, a hairy bike film, I would go for a yak. No, those are guys, aren't they? Hairy bikers. I've heard of them. Yeah. So they would, if they want to do a movie, I'd just get in touch with a yak, probably.
It's a great idea. Do you're touching on this again, Phil? Do you think that they're again sad that they're not in the industry? Is it? Would we solve a lot of these animal problems by just finding the correct parts for all of them?
Yeah, because you get there's Madagascar's got a lot of animals in it. I don't recall any yaks in there.
Nope.
Toy Story is lacking yaks. Yep. I mean, lack yak. Before you can solve a problem, you've got to name it. And I think what we're dealing here is lack yak.
Lack yak.
Yak lack?
Yeah.
Yak lack.
I don't think I've seen a single yak in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I can't think of one.
No.
Oh, and Yak Man would be quite a good hero.
Yes. Not least because the others can.
What would his powers be?
Well, they can sit on his shoulders and hold his horse and pretend to be on a motorbike.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
The Yakmobile.
Yeah. Yak attack. I mean, that's definitely a phrase, isn't it? It's time for yak attack. Yeah. Stop yakking. Let's go. I feel like there's a script there, but yeah. I suppose the argument would be then you're employing a person to wear a yak costume, and I worry the yaks would feel misrepresented.
You really want to give that job to a real yak.
Yeah.
But
Could you have a yak
I'd like to
bitten by a
see.
radioactive person and they could become man-yak?
Yeah, that's a good way round because it's Batman, isn't it? Spider-Man, man, yak. So it's a yak that becomes a man, gets the powers of a man. That could be or yak woman, yak girl. That would be a good twist on it, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
They suddenly wear pants, or
yeah,
I don't know what other things people do that yaks don't. They suddenly drink from a cup, or use yellow marigolds, or something that's
yeah.
yeah. Well,
And the symbol when to call yak man is just they project in the sky just a silhouette of a man. It looks like just looks like the toilet door probably.
yes,
Or
or a traffic light sign.
yeah.
That'd be great, and it would be brilliant. And how many just normal humans would go, "Oh, is that a giant toilet?" Or
Yeah.
or do they just need anyone? Yeah, but only man yak man would. I mean, look, I feel Phil. I don't know if you'd ever get round to this because obviously, you probably wouldn't be aware of it if you did. But I feel like there's a pitch there, and maybe it is up to you to help introduce yaks and possibly even rhinos into the cinematic industry.
Well, I'm certainly going to write it up as a treatment, and I'll see what I can do. I do like this idea. Yeah, I think you've got to think who is the villain in Yak Man's story. Batman has his Joker.
Yeah,
Superman's got Lex Luthor. Who is Yak
the
Man's?
herder with the herder who knows exactly how to get a yak into a small contained gated area.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I guess we have to talk to a yak and see what it is that they really want.
And who they really dislike. But it could be you. It could be you they dislike because that's why they turn up to get their hair cut so late.
Yeah, it could be the hairdresser, could be the villain.
Yeah.
Because the yak has a lot of it's like Samson, they get their power from their big hair. So the hairdresser with his scissors, I can see it in my mind, the hairdresser villain character.
Yeah. I think the barber, the hairdresser. It's got a good title to it, definitely.
Yeah.
Lovely stripy outfit with giant scissors. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I think that this clearly is your calling in life, and I say that knowing full well that after we've had this conversation, you won't have remembered or have paid attention to any of it, and it won't happen. But I thank you for answering a Smasher Bash's question. And have you got an exciting rest of the day, or do you not really know and won't be paying attention to it?
I'm just gonna see. I think I'll look at my hand in front of my face again. Try it with the glove on, with the glove off. That's me for the rest of the day.
Sounds absolutely just calming and delightful. Thank you so much, Phil, for joining us on the show.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks so much to Phil O'Shea for having time to answer Smasher Bash's question. Smasher Bash, I do hope you liked your answer, and if not, why not write your complaint on a lion and hopefully a rhino will fart it away and I'll never have to see it. If you are listening to this in Aberdeen, Phil has his absolutely brilliant physical comedy family show Soup Group at the Aberdeen Comedy Festival on October the 9th at 1:30pm at the Aberdeen Arts Centre. And it is brilliant fun for everyone of all possible ages from... Well, you know what I mean. I'll pop a link in the podcast blurb for your custard need whinge boxes, grown-ups, to check out. Don't forget, if you'd like a question answered on this show or you want to send in anything at all, then do get those same grown-ups to help you email us at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. Also, please come see Radio Nonsense live at the South Bank Centre in London on October the 26th, and you can grab tickets for that at southbankcentre.co.uk, and you can check out our other shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk and all our Radio Nonsense merch at comedyclubforkids.store. And I've just checked, and all deliveries for that will arrive by Sunday. Oh, no, wait, hang on. Oh, that's for me, isn't it? Because I'm still in a month of Sundays, so everything happens on a Sunday. Please stop eating my food, cows. If you are now home, at least go shopping and maybe just clean up a bit. It's You've just left pats everywhere. Those cows are unbelievable. I can't remember how to stop this. Last time I got stuck in a month of Sundays and I had 4 pigs fly through the window. and one frog opened up a hairdresser salon in the bathroom, which was very annoying. There were frog hairs everywhere. And then I got so angry, let me think, what did I do? Shush! Right, oh wait, I've got it, yes. I remembered, that's it, I remembered to turn the page on my calendar. Silly me. There you go, right, all done. Now shoo cows, and the moon is no longer blue, and that frog looks very sad, its moustache has fallen off. I'm sorry, frog, it did make you look very dapper indeed. Hopefully, this month will be a lot more sensible. What does it say there on the calendar? A moth of Sundays. What does that mean? Is that a spelling mistake? A moth of Sundays? What does that mean? That's very weird. Ah, a giant moth, go away!
I'm here every Sunday, come see me moth around. I'll nibble your favourite jumpers live and be really annoying around lights. Every Sunday, woohoo!
What? Ah!
You have been listening to
Comedy Club for Kids presents.
Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. It's the end.